Hi, this is Brian with Nelson Creek Outdoors and Lucky 7 Cents. This is a video series called Mastering Mock Scrapes, a quick couple videos to help you use this great tool to better catalog your deer and target mature bucks. Now, the first thing advice I can give you is this is going to take a little bit. You have to be willing to be bad at it first. You'll learn as you go along, you'll get better at it, and then it'll become a very effective tool for you in your hunting toolbox. Now, what are scrapes to begin with? Well, they're communication hubs. Deer like to paw at the ground, urinate in it, then the overhead licking branch, they lick and chew at it, deposit saliva, and then they rub their forehead on it and deposit preorbital gland secretions on it. And this communicates to other deer their presence, their numbers, their overall health condition, and that's what they're telling each other. They're communicating that information to each other out in the woods. You can kind of think of it as Facebook for deer. You know, when you're on Facebook, you're messaging your family and friends. Well, that's what they're doing. And what are we doing when we make a mock scrape? We're trying to be like that ad you see from the Chinese company that's supposedly selling $25 kayaks straight to your door. We're trying to fool them into thinking we have valuable information for them. So that's what we're trying to do when we make a mock scrape. Now, I break scrapes down into two parts first, non-rut and rut scrapes. So let's talk about non-rut scrapes, pardon me. Non-rut scrapes are often found in travel corridors between bedding and food sources. Now, let's start with the does. The does, they like to bed in grassy, brushy areas that are a little more open. And they'll bed, especially at the edges of transition of brush and grass. Now, bucks, they don't bed there. Bucks are looking for the nastiest, hairiest, thickest piece of ground they can find to bed in. You know, I find buck beds often in marshes where there's a tag alder sticking up that has a root ball, and it's the only little dry spot in the area, and it's, you know, maybe only a couple feet across by a couple feet across. And a buck is bedded up on that root ball, sleeping because he feels safe there. Now, nothing can approach him. He'll hear him coming or smell him coming before they get there. And trust me, he already has several escape routes planned out of there through some of the thickest cover. He will not even know he was there. That's why they like to be there. Now, the bucks travel to the does, and then the bucks and does travel to their food sources all year round. And it's along those travel corridors that they make these non-rut scrapes. Now, a non-rut scrape may not have much of a scrape on the ground. It could be a couple pawings and very hard to tell from a squirrel digging or a turkey scratching. But I do guarantee that they've urinated on the ground, and I also can tell you with 99% surety there is a licking branch over that small non-rut scrape along that travel corridor. You'll find them a lot along transition areas where they're walking along the edge of cover and stuff. If you look around, you'll find them. There are not a ton of them around. You know, they're in certain spots, and they may move from year to year, but they're there, and the deer are using those to communicate. Now, they're okay to put a trail camera over. The deer use them a lot at night, so you might not get a lot of daylight pictures, but that's why we've got the night vision cameras, and you can use them to catalog your deer. Now, as these deer move from their bedding to there, they leave these scrapes, and eventually, as you see in the woods, there's multiple trails come together. And they become one trail as they head to the food source. Now, where those trails combine is a good cover area as well, a lot of times you'll find a primary non-rut scrape there. Those are usually a little bigger. The ground is usually scraped up. The licking branch has heavier use. Now, if you find one of those scrapes in the woods, a primary non-rut scrape, that's a great place to hang a camera, or even a deer stand in the early season come September. You'll see a lot of deer there, a lot of deer moving through, and you'll be able to target them. If you find an area like that but you don't see a scrape, a non-rut scrape, that's a good spot to make one as well and hang a camera or hunt over it. So that's how you target the non-rut scrapes and how they're used by deer. Now, the next type of scrape is the rut scrape. Those are actually better called pre-rut scrapes because buck activity on rut scrapes is very strong a few weeks before the peak of the rut in the pre-rut period. In Wisconsin, the rut peaks about November 7th, and so our pre-rut period is the second week of October to mid-October, and for a couple weeks. That is when the big bucks are using their rut scrapes. And we've all seen the rut scrapes. They're big. They may be tabletop size. The ground is all ripped up. Branches are ripped up from their antlers hitting them and chewing on them, depositing their preorbital gland scent on them. So where do you find these rut scrapes? Well, they're also along travel corridors, and those are secondary rut scrapes, just like there are some secondary non-rut scrapes. Again, the bucks often visit those at night. We've all seen those too, along a cornfield. Pick the cornfield, you walk along the wooded edge, and every 20 yards it seems you see a little scrape there. Now you can put a camera there again if you got a bunch of cameras and want to see who's playing around, but those aren't the important ones. Those are the secondary ones. We're looking for the primary rut scrapes, because those are the ones we can use to target the mature dominant bucks in our area. Well, the first place you'll find those is, now remember, the bucks aren't bedded with the does. They're off farther away from the food source than the does are, in heavier cover. Well, the first thing they do is move toward the does when they get up. And they have these like staging areas. Now these staging areas are generally downwind of doe bedding areas, and they're often on higher ground, a little ridge, a little knob, something dry so their scrapes don't get washed out, all that. And it also helps with scent, bringing scent of the does to them, because that's what they do first. They get downwind of those does, and they scent the does, trying to see if they can find an estrus doe in the group. So why are the primary rut scrapes there? Well, because when they scent those estrus does, they get riled up. You know what's on their mind when they're doing that. So they get riled up. They often fight in those areas. They put a lot of rubs in those areas, and they're getting excited in those areas. So you'll see a cluster sometimes of big primary rut scrapes in that area, and you know you've kind of found the honey hole. Now you can actually hunt right over those scrapes, or put cameras, or communicate with the journal. I tend not to myself. I will move to a similar area very close by, maybe only 15, 20 yards away, but I will make my own set of mock scrapes there, rut mock scrapes. And I will pretend to be a rival buck in the area, and I'm trying to steal his does with my own set of scrapes. And that's been very effective for me. Using that technique, I've killed more mature bucks than CWD, so it can be very effective. So it's definitely something you want to learn. So after they've ripped up that ground, well, then they move again toward the does. Now, they may or may not ever get to the food source, depending on what time of the rut it is. Like I said, later on, they'll even skip the scrapes and go straight to chasing the does. But early on in that pre-rut period, after they've sniffed out the estrus does in the bedding areas, they still often go to the food sources too, because the does aren't quite ready. So you will find other primary rut scrapes in areas, and they're often close by or right by, or even the same scrape as the non-rut scrape in those areas where the paths come together in cover. And there are other things there, and they can have them create a scrape as if there's high ground. So if they come to a doe path, they follow their trail to the does and then take the same path as the does toward food. A lot of times if there's a patch of high ground there that they come across that gets a scent advantage to it, you'll see a primary scrape there too. So look for those as well. All of them are great to set a camera over and to hunt over to target big bucks. Now, when you're making a mock scrape of your own, I suggest strongly that you use Lucky 7 Cents. We have the best scents on the market, and I'm not just bragging it up. We are just leaps and bounds ahead of the competition at this point. In fact, other companies right now are trying to figure out what we're doing and trying to copy it. I got some more information on other companies doing that right now as we speak. Hey, more power to them. If they can't do it, if you can't beat them, join them, I guess. So test away, guys, and do your best. It'll take you a while to catch up. But anyway, for a non-rut scrape, hey, a little Buck and Rut Max urine and a little preorbital gel over top of it, or maybe one of our maxed out mock scrape sprays to make a non-rut scrape. And then as the rut comes along, add a little bit of our Doe and Heat Plus, or again the maxed out mock scrape for the rut, the version. And even think about adding a wick with one of our maximum pheromonal response scents. Lucky 7, the juice, and another good one is Lucky 7 ASS, Advanced Synthetic Scent, or ASS. Those are both rut specific scents. So when those scrapes start cooling down a little bit toward the peak of the rut, start adding a wick with that over top of it. It's a strong scent. Bucks passing by, I'll pick it up, and you'll often get a nose in the air, a phlegm response, or they're testing the air for estrus dose. They pick up one of our maximum pheromonal response scents, and yeah, it can be some hot action. It really makes them aggressive. You can use other scents and stuff like that from other companies. Yeah, I just don't recommend it. Why not use the best? All right, in my next video, I'm going to do a quick map and show you. It's actually a property I own and I hunt. And I'm going to show you by example where I've seen scrapes, where the travel corridors, and how it all relates. So I'll get that on video. All right, so look for that in part 2 coming up very soon. Again, this is Brian, Nelson Creek Outdoors and Lucky 7 Cents. I look forward to the next video. Don't forget to like this video, smash the subscribe button, and visit our website at NelsonCreekOutdoors.com.